All right, so this is part two of video on common types of argumentative claims. And in part one, we just talked about two of the most common sorts, which are a simple categorical claim and a definitional claim or argument. Again, before I get into this stuff is adapted from Ramage and Bean's description of these topics in the book Writing Arguments. So let's pick it back up. The third of the six types of arguments we're going to talk about begins with the question, is X a Y? Right? Except, unlike in our definitional argument, we're going to add in an adjective, right? So what distinguishes the ethical or evaluative argument is the presence of an adjective. And of course, an adjective is a descriptive word, right? The claim could take two forms. X is a blank Y, and in the blank would be the adjective, or X is not a blank Y. All right, so let's give some examples of ethical evaluative questions. Is Adam Ellwanger an effective teacher? So this is our Y term, teacher. The thing is that everybody who knows me would probably agree that I am a teacher, right? So that's not really debatable if it was just, is Adam Ellwanger a teacher? But if we throw in an adjective, here's that adjective. Is Adam Ellwanger an effective teacher? Well, now all of a sudden it becomes debatable, right? Because it depends. Well, what do you mean by an effective teacher? Okay. Another good example would be, is Drake a good rapper? Now it kind of depends, right? Is he a rapper? Definitely. That's our why. But what really makes it debatable is this question of whether or not he's a good rapper. And is Houston a clean city? Certainly, we can't debate that it's a city. Everybody would say that it is. It's the adjective of clean that makes this a debatable question. And another example would be, is cloning wrong? Right? Is cloning wrong? There's an adjective. Or you're saying, you could say cloning is wrong, cloning is not wrong. Now, we might say, like, well, why are we calling them ethical evaluative arguments? The reason is because in most of these examples, we are asked to evaluate a thing. Here, we're evaluating Adam Ellwanger. Is he effective at teaching? Here, we're evaluating Drake. We're saying, is he a good rapper? Here, we're evaluating Houston. We're asking whether it's a clean city. Now, sometimes it's actually an ethical question, and that's what we have here. When we're talking about matters of right and wrong, or good and evil, or good and bad, we're really engaging in a kind of ethical argumentation, okay? And so that is our third type of argument, the ethical or evaluative kind. And the trick to identifying them is look for the adjective. If there's an adjective, it's probably ethical evaluative and not definitional, because in definitional, there is no adjective slipped in here. Okay? So, fourth type of claim is causal arguments. Now here, the question can take a number of different forms. Sometimes causal arguments are a little tricky because causal questions can get stated in a lot of different ways. So the most common way is probably, is X the cause of Y? Okay, and here, Y is an event, a trend, or a phenomenon. Okay, so let me say for a minute what an event, a trend, and phenomenon might be. An event might be something like 9/11, right? We're coming up on the 20th anniversary of 9/11. We could take 9/11 as our Y term and ask, is blah, 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 the cause of 9/11. And we could plug in different things into this X spot, right? There's different arguments we could make about what the cause of 9/11 was. We could say U.S. foreign policy caused it. We could say radical Islamic extremism caused it. We could say lax airport security caused it. Or we could, instead of making Y an event, we could make it a phenomenon, like, say, school shootings, right? And we could say, is blank the cause of school shootings? And a lot of people would come up with different ways to answer that question, right? They put different things in the X spot. Or trends, like a fashion trend, or something like that could be our Y term. But the question could be asked in different ways, too. Is Y the effect of X? Here, the Y is still an event, trend, or phenomena. We've just asked the question in a different way. Is Y the consequence of X? And so there's a whole bunch of different ways that the claim can look. These are all examples of causal claims. X is the cause of Y. X is not the cause of Y. Y is the effect of X. Y is not the effect of X. Y is a consequence of X. Y is not a consequence of X. Y is the result of X. Y is not the result of X. And the fact that you can do this in so many different ways means you really got to be on the lookout for this language of causation, of cause and effect, because sometimes it'll be different words. So let's say that Y is an event, right? Let's say it's the election of Donald Trump in 2016. This is something we could disagree about the causes of. Here's some possible explanations, right? Some are good explanations, some are bad explanations, but these are different things that people could argue caused the election of Donald Trump, right? And so these are different potential X's to put with the Y, okay? So those are causal arguments. Fifth are resemblance arguments. And of course, you know that a resemblance is two things that appear to have some commonality or some similarity. When people have, or things have some similarity, we say they bear a resemblance to one another. Here, the question is X like Y? And there are two different ways to answer that question. The first is X is not like Y. Second is X is like Y. Okay? And so a resemblance question could be, is Trump like Obama? Right? Now, we could debate this question. You could say, look, Trump is a lot like Obama. Or you could say, no, Trump is not like Obama, right? That you could make good arguments for both of those. But let's imagine that we wanted to make the argument that Trump is like Obama. Well, what similarities do they have? We could say they're both men. We could look at their record and say, wow, they both spent a lot of money. They both drove up the national debt, right? Big spenders. Both of them kept the military active overseas, right? Trump had, was bombing ISIS. Obama bombed 7 different countries when he was president. We could say they both have an enthusiastic base of support, and that is people who love Trump really love Trump, and people who love Obama really love Obama, right? They both have a kind of celebrity status. Both of them have large egos. Both of them inspire nastiness in their critics. People, are nasty when they're critical of them. Both of them are tall. Right? So we could say, Trump was a lot like Obama and vice versa. That's a resemblance argument. There's a million different resemblance arguments we could make. This is just one. But how they work is to show either a resemblance, similarities between two things, or showing dissimilarities between two things if the claim is X is not like Y. Okay. And sixth, our final type is proposal arguments. And this is where, you propose a solution to a problem. That's why it's called a proposal argument, because you're proposing a certain course of action. And so the question can be, what should we do about problem X? Problem X could be anything. There's a million problems in the world, right? So I have down here some suggestions, right? One problem could be, UHD's difficulty with the pandemic, right? What should UHD do about the COVID-19 pandemic, right? The claim can basically take two forms, right? We should do Y about problem X, where Y is a particular solution to the problem, or we should not do Y about problem X, okay? And obviously, for example, most complex problems have a number of different possible solutions, and that's why these proposal claims are debatable, is that, any serious problem, we can think of a bunch of different possible solutions, right? So they're debatable because you're arguing for one solution. We should do this to solve this particular problem, or we should not do it. And here's some different possibilities. Different things that the university could do is just have no classes at all until the pandemic is over. Or we could have no in-person classes, and this should say spring, sorry. We could set a policy that says no unnecessary campus visits. We could say most classes should be online, but some will be face-to-face and many will be hybrid. We could say they should all be face-to-face. And so there's a lot of different proposals or courses of action you could suggest for the university regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so that's the 6 major types of argument that we'll discuss this semester. Let me say what I'd like for you to do when you return to class on Monday, September 13th. What I'd like you to do on September 13th is hand me in a typed document with 3 possible claims for each type of argument I've talked about in this video and the last. And what that means is I'd like you to list 3 simple categorical claims. Make sure to label them. So simple categorical argument. Here's one example of a simple categorical argument. I'd like you to type up 3. You don't have to write the essay or anything. I just want the claim. So I need 3 sentences, 3 different sentences that are simple categorical claims. Okay. Then I'd like you to write me 3 claims that are a definitional argument. Here's one example of such a claim. I need you to write 3. I'd like you to write 3 ethical evaluative claims, right, of this type that we discussed. I'd like you to write 3 causal claims of this kind, 3 resemblance claims of this kind, and 3 proposal claims. Now, so basically 3 claims for each type of argument typed up. Make sure you label the claims. So that means what you hand to me should have 18 sentences, right? 3 sentences for 3 kinds of claims for each type of argument. And remember, I'm not asking for you to state a question. What I'm asking for you to do is state the claim, the answer to the question. So if you were going to do something like, is Trump like Obama? You wouldn't write, is Trump like Obama? You'd decide, do you think he is or isn't? If you think he is, then your claim would be, Trump is like Obama, right? You wouldn't say, is fishing a sport? You'd make up your mind, and your claim would be, fishing is not a sport. Okay, so I will collect that when I get back and when we return to class on September 13th. Thanks. Good luck.